Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I appreciate the fact that you came here on a Sunday morning, given the fact that most likely you will have a weekend off and there's many other things that you could do with your time. There's many things that the world will promise you, the world will offer you that you can do. Places to go, people to visit, things to do, things to see, things to hear, things to smell, things to touch, and so on. And of course most people are busy doing that, but you found a moment to come here and listen to the Dhamma, which is actually a really very meritorious deed in itself. Because the Dhamma itself is the most purest thing that you can find in the world, because it was the teacher. It is our teacher. It will be your teacher as much as it is mine, as much as it was the teacher of the Lord Buddha himself. That is what he said. And he struggled a long time when he was a bodhisattva to find the Dhamma. And ultimately the nature revealed that to him. So given the fact that someone like the bodhisattva had to struggle so long, so hard, coming across this teaching, you can sort of have an idea about how pure it must be. Therefore, any attempt that you do, listening to it, trying to understand it, trying to apply it to your lives, will be a very fruitful one. I can say the last few years, compared to the life I lived before in my life, was a very different life. Most of my life I used to try and focus on the external world, focusing on the people that I can spend time with, focusing on the career that I can follow, focusing on what I can learn about the world. That's why I studied physics, because I can learn about the world. And that's why I traveled around many countries, so I can learn about many countries. That's why I wanted to see waterfalls, mountains, deserts, people from different cultures. And that's what most people are doing, right? Even ourselves, we have been used to do that. So it takes some resistance, and it is not something you can find that easily. People who actually don't try to focus on the outside world, but focusing on the inside world. I mean, we all feel the inside world because we don't have a choice. We have to feel it. Sometimes we have to feel sadness. We have to feel anger. We have to feel happiness as well. That is what ultimately we are after. The inside world matters to us much more than the outside world, ultimately, right? What is the point of doing things in the outside world if it cannot leave something with you? Because just when you close your eyes, now the outside world is gone. But whatever remains with you, now that is still there. So every night we close our eyes and we say goodbye to the outside world, at least for a few hours. But then the question is, what is the feeling that remains with you after you have lived your day. You can do that. You can do that we can say it's a kind of meditation. The next few days, when you go to bed, when you close your eyes, just think about what remains with you at this moment. What has been the things you have done at this day? What are the happinesses that you experienced? What is the sadness that you have experienced? And likewise, what is the good that you have done? And what is the mistakes that you have done? Just to going and reviewing this in your mind for a moment, and now when it comes to the happiness you have experienced, of course, we had many nice moments. But don't you think that when you go to bed and there was something really nice that happened on that day, do you think that you can sleep? What if that were to be your last day? What if that were to be the last time you had your eyes open? What if that would be the time when you close your eyes, not just for one night, but for the last time? Have you ever thought about this question? That when you close your eyes in the night, you won't be able to open it again. Because can you be sure that it's going to be another day for you? No. Because as much as we like to think, now this is a side point, but you can think about it, as much as you and me, as much as we all like to think that I can open my eyes whenever I want to, is that really true? I mean, if I close my eyes, and if somehow during the night that I'm sleeping, somebody would he would cut the nerve between my eyes and the brain, do you think I would be able to open my eyes one more time? No. Because if there's no causes for the effect, then the effect will not manifest. Right? And the nerve is one cause among many. Of course, the brain is another cause. Many causes are there. So, if the causes are not aligned, the effect will not manifest. So, now that's a deep point, we can think about this more, but I don't want to go too deep too quickly, and I had actually something else in mind, so let's come back to the question. So, can you be sure that it's going to be another day? No. Can you be sure you can open your eyes again? No. Then the question is, shouldn't we go to bed with a mindset that if death comes now, that would be okay for me? It doesn't have to happen. I mean, it's not like we wish for it. No, not like that. But should falling asleep happily, does that not mean that you are not afraid of anything that might happen to you? Going to bed with some sort of fear, is that going to bed happily? Therefore, if when we close our eyes, we are afraid that this might be the last day, that in other words, going to bed with a hope, is that going to bed happily? If when you go to bed you have a hope, there's something that you still need to do in your life. There's something that you want to do tomorrow and you really, really want to do that. Without which you can't say goodbye to this planet, even if death knocks on your door. Then is that going to bed happily? Or isn't that some sort of vexation? So this is actually something we all do every day. When we go to bed with a hope. you might not feel it. Because when you think about the day that you have spent, it makes you really happy in that moment. But if I were to ask you, even if it was the day where you have married, or I don't know, take something that was something you really, really, really enjoyed, and it was something you looked forward to for a long time, and you have just experienced that, and that day is over. Now can you say you're done? Do you have any other dreams that you still need to fulfill then? Are there no more dreams? Are you done? Are you finished? Are you free from these hopes? Free from new projects? No, because now you just married, so now you are very curious, how will tomorrow be? A little bit more of what I had today would be nice, right? Yes. So therefore, we always go to bed with a hope. Either with a hope for something tomorrow, or because we suffer. Because there's something that today was not good, so let me try it better tomorrow. So there's only two ways we go to bed normally. A normal person can go to bed with these two feelings. Today was good, let's see what tomorrow will bring, okay? Let me have more of that tomorrow. That's one kind of feeling you might have when you go to bed. And the second one is, of course, today was not so good, something bad happened, and I really didn't like that, so let me try and fix this problem tomorrow, let me try and see whether tomorrow I can go back to happiness. For example, if there's a person, maybe as a mother, for example, there's something that your child is maybe sick, maybe it has a cold, maybe it has a fever. So you go back to bed with that thought in mind. My child has a fever. Tomorrow I need to go and do this for the child, this and that. So that is another way. So here we go to bed with worry. It might not be big worry, right? A small problem causes a small worry, but a big problem causes a big worry. But worry is there. So here we have worry. So you can see any of these 2 days, now you have to ask yourself, if let's say death is a person, and death comes around knocking on your door in any of these 2 days, would you be okay to say no if you have to? I mean, would it be okay for you if you have to go at this day? If you can't choose, but now you have to go, would you be okay with that? Let's say in this situation, it was the best day of your life. You just married whatever the person, and it was a great day and a great wedding, and everyone was there who you love in your life, and you did all the food was nice, and the music was nice, and the dancing was nice, and imagine whatever. And now you just go to bed, and everything was good, but now death comes to you and asks you, so, are you now, let's go? Would you say okay? Or would you say, no, tomorrow I also want to enjoy. Tomorrow also, please. Give me at least a day. Right? And this I don't think I have to explain that. That is something when we are not feeling good. I mean, there are people who they suffer so much that they want to die, for example. Yeah? So I know that I saw some documentaries. People are maybe suffering from a strong illness. Maybe they have uncurable illness. So then they say, I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. Okay, even if they were asked, now let's go, then they would say yes. But if they would have a chance to live again and be happy in that life, be free from that illness and so on, then they would say, yes, that is something I want. So also they also go with a hope. The hope that if I have a choice, I would like to live more, but not this life that I am having right now. If maybe a person's body has become very weak, maybe it's an elderly person and additionally sick, then if I were to ask that person, do you want to die? This person would say yes, but there's a hope. If I could be 20 again, if I could be 25 again, that is something that I would really like to do. So, you see, in both of these states, we always go hoping for something. That's why we always go to bed with unfinished business. Unfinished business means we are not done looking for happiness. Therefore, within us we feel a hope. And that hope means expectation. And I don't know whether all of you have been here when I explained the relationship between expectation and suffering or vexation, but if you can remember, wherever there is an expectation, there's always a vexation. Vexation means some feeling of unfulfillment. So, these are the two ways we can go to bed if we are, let's say, not an arahant. An arahant, somebody who has understood the Four Noble Truths, who has internalized the Four Noble Truths, who has purified his mind, he doesn't have hopes. He doesn't have expectations. So when he goes to bed, he can accept the fact that this will be the last time that he has opened his eyes. He's okay with that situation. He's okay with both death and life, right? So if you were to ask an Arahant, what do you prefer, life or death? He doesn't have a preference. If life happens, may it happen. And maybe for others, he will keep it alive. For others. But for himself, he doesn't have a preference, whether life or death. Okay? And that is something, now if you really think about it, that is really astonishing. That's really unimaginable. How can somebody feel like that? He doesn't even have a preference between being alive or not. But ultimately we can get there. It is possible to do that. With this I want to convince you in these sermons. By understanding how our mind works, we can achieve that. And actually you can understand life and death are both illusions that we have in our minds. But we come to this later. So let's come back to the question. Practically, next few days when you go to bed, now take a moment to think about your day, and you can apply this. That is a good contemplation. Contemplate on what have you experienced today, happiness or sadness, what were the moments that made you happy, what were the moments that made you sad, and think about that happiness that you experienced. Was it really happiness, or was it not simply pleasure? Because pleasure is actually not happiness. Pleasure is only a feeling that we feel when our vexation relieves. Nothing more than that. So this is a feeling this is a contemplation you can do. And another thing you can do, think about the good that you have done and the good that you have seen, both the good that has happened to you as well as the good that you have seen others do, and the good that you have done. Think about that and rejoice in that. That means feel happy about having done the good things you have done, and feel good about the good things you have seen with others do. And sometimes the happiness that you have experienced on that day was because you have given something. Because there's a rule, as you might know, what you give is what you get. Most people, when they go to bed, and even religious people, they go to bed not focusing on this principle, but they focus always on getting. So today I was happy or I wasn't happy. I want more of these things. So can I please have more of this? So this is what they think when they go to bed. Can I please have more of this? Whatever the good things that I have had today. So then maybe even they pray to God or to, I don't know, someone, please, I want more of this. Tomorrow I want to earn more money. Tomorrow I want to enjoy this more. So they're asking for more. And of course, if you are not happy, then what people do is they pray, please help me for my child is sick. Can you please make him healthy again? Can you make this problem go away? Can you make this problem go away? Right. So these are the normally these are the thoughts we have. We want more. We want things. So we don't focus on this. I'll explain you how you can use this when you think. If there was something good that happened today, think about that it was something you have given that you got back. Okay. Let's say somebody gave you a compliment and that made you happy. Somebody appreciated you, maybe at work, maybe your husband, maybe your children, or maybe you have had a good day with your family. That means you experienced care and love and affection on that day. That is something you got. But what is it? What was it that you have given? If you have experienced love and affection, what is it that you have given? You have given love and affection. So now you don't stop at asking for more love from the people around you, which will be trouble for them, can be. Now you focus on what you have given to get that. And then you can go to bed thinking about what you have to give, what you can give, how you can give. And that will be good for you, because then the next day you will raise with your mindset focused on giving love, giving affection. That will be good for you and for others also. And you can see about the love you have seen around you. The love that you have, that can be many different things. Love doesn't have to be within family. It can be just strangers on the streets who one person helps another. It's also love. So all these situations that you have seen, you can feel happy about that and rejoice in that. And now the mistakes we have done. Now we have done mistakes, maybe. Sometimes you will feel it more than others. Some days you will really feel, oh God, what did I do today? I really shouldn't have said that. I really shouldn't have done that. I really shouldn't have eaten that kind of piece of something. Sometimes we eat things which we don't really have to eat. Maybe because it's not good for our body. These things can happen. So, of course, it is not a good idea to judge yourself and feel shame about yourself or guilty. That's not a good emotion to think. But you can forgive yourself and you can try to see what are the mistakes that you have done and try to change it tomorrow. Try to improve it tomorrow. And if there were other people who have done something to you, instead of getting angry on them, you need to see that is what you have given. That is because of something you have given. So the fault is not with them, because they are just the messengers. There's always a story we tell in our monastery, the story of the messenger. Would you shoot the messenger if a messenger comes and he gives you a bill? The postman. The postman brings you a bill, and it is a heavy bill. Can you blame the postman? You can't do. He's just the deliverer. But the message comes because of something that you have done. The bill comes because of something you have done. So you can only blame yourself. You can only say, okay, I did that mistake, so now this is the consequence. But blaming the messenger, he was just at the wrong time in the wrong place. Right? Similarly, the bad consequences, or what we usually call it bad vipaka. I don't know how familiar you are with this term. I will start using it, and when I say the word vipaka, it means results or consequences. Similarly, the bad consequences, the bad vipaka that we have created with our with the karma that we have done in the past. Now, if the moment is right, if the environment is right, if the situation is matching, this energy will find a messenger, a suitable messenger, and will come back to you. And that is what you have experienced today, on that day. If somebody was angry on you, if somebody blamed you, maybe even if somebody blamed you and you haven't done anything wrong, then that was not because you were innocent. Maybe you were innocent in that situation. Imagine on that day, somebody accuses you that you have stolen copy paper from the printer in the office. And you definitely know that, no, I have not done that. So you really know that. So in that way, of course, you're innocent. But now if you were to think, why does he blame me? What's the problem with this guy? I don't deserve this kind of treatment. I don't deserve for people to speak to me like that, shout at me like that. If you feel like that, then let's think again. Because although in this situation you are innocent, that vipaka was still not, that was still a consequence of something you have done. Maybe you have blamed somebody who was innocent before. Because our mind has that nature, it likes to judge so easily. We always know very well what people have done and not done, and we are so easy to spur out judgments about others or accuse somebody. I mean, maybe not these days, but I definitely know in my past I have accused others much more easily than I should have done that. So many times. Maybe not in this life, maybe before that. Right? So, now these are the consequences. So that's what you can realize, and then you also realize that if you want to avoid this, what should you do? Again, you need to be concerned about what you give. And for example, if in that situation where somebody blames you for something you have not done, now don't you have a choice? What you can do? Either you can shout back, or you can listen to this person, give him a chance to relieve his vexation, which is something you can do out of compassion, and then you find a solution together, and the problem is solved. So then you have, but if you shout back, what you do is you're recycling that energy. If you are not prepared to accept these consequences, I'm not prepared to listen to this. I'm not prepared to hear this shouting, these accusations, false accusations. I am not prepared because I don't deserve this. I deserve to be treated in this way. People should treat me always with kind words. And if that is what you think that you deserve, then in a way what we do in this moment, or what the mind does in this moment is, it wants to be God. It wants to be the master of the world, of the nature. It wants to decide. It wants to be above nature. Because nature is fair. Nature is always fair. So you always get what you deserve. But we don't want to accept that. We want only to get the good things, not the bad things. That is what our mind likes to do. So we want to be the master. So then when that happens, when you say, you should not speak to me like that, that means we are not prepared to accept this vipaka from coming to fruition, from bearing its consequences. So then what happens is, actually we are recycling this energy. This energy goes back into the storage, and another day it will come back to us. again. And still we have suffered on that moment. Because the more you resist something, the more you resist nature, the more you will suffer. Right? Nature has its way, but if you want to have it your way, now you will get into friction with nature. I'll give you an example. Nature has its way now. Can you see this table? It is standing like this. Now you have a choice. You can have it your way and you can say, I want to go here, I want to go straight through this table, I want to go straight. And nature should make room for me. Nature should pave me the path. So if I go straight, I should be able to go straight without any hindrance. Because I want to have it my way. Will it happen? No, this table will stand here. And as faster as you run, that harder it will be that more pain you will experience. Right? Because the more you push against nature, the more nature pushes back against you. That is the principle of action and reaction. That means the more you don't like people to talk harshly to you, the more angry you will get when it happens. And the more you will suffer when it happens. Because that much you're resisting. Somebody who has no problem with others speaking harshly to him, for him, he doesn't feel any suffering. Actually, for him, these are just words. The words don't carry any suffering. Words are just words, actually. So it's our own reaction, or it's our own action, which causes us, which gives us the punishment. Resisting against vipaka means that the more you resist nature, the more you suffer. The more nature will make you suffer, because you're doing something unnatural. You want to be God, and nature punishes you for trying to do that. Right? You don't want people to talk to you like that, and when you have that mindset, you are saying, basically, I deserve to be treated differently, and this is what I deserve, and that's what the whole world should do right now. But it doesn't. But you suffer. That's your gain. That's what you gain. That's what you got additionally. Only suffering. Only the anger. The anger is now yours. Only thing you gained was anger. And that is only a pain. So instead of going through this table, what should I do then? Because that is going against nature. Going in harmony with nature means going around it, in this case. If I go around it, I can go very smoothly. So it's a simple principle, but a very powerful one. Once I was in the monastery, and it was in my time when I was an anagarika. So I was not a monk at that time, I was an anagarika, and as an anagarika, what we had to do was carry the pearl umbrella for the Swaminatha. And there was a spot where there were a lot of bushes and green. So we had to go through these bushes, having this motokuta in my hands. Then I can't remember whether it was a motokuta or a normal umbrella, but then the monk said to me, now when we go through here, don't hold the umbrella tightly. Because when you hold it tightly, what will happen? As you go through the bushes, it will get stuck in them, and then it will tilt to the back side, and all the water will come spilling from the other side onto us. Instead, what you should do is hold it loosely And as we are walking, it will start turning along with the bushes. Right? So you can see, then after that he explained me this principle. Because when you hold tightly, you're not ready. You're not ready to change. You're not ready to flow with nature. You want to stick to a certain path. In the example of the false accusations in the office, what does it mean? If you stick to the idea that this is how people should talk to me, and only like this, now that is your way. That is something that is how it has to be for you. So this is what you hold very tightly. And you're not prepared to accept anything else. This is the way people should treat me. Okay. Now, does nature care about that? No. Nature will change. And when it does, the water will fall on you. But if you were able to accept anything, any words that people tell you, if you don't have a preferred way that people talk to you, now all the words are fine. All the words are good. There's nothing. Then you can enjoy everything. Then you can enjoy every word that people speak. You can be happy even when you're being accused. That is possible because you only suffer when you resist. You never suffer because of the words. When somebody accuses you, that accusation doesn't make you suffer. It is your resistance to that accusation which makes you suffer. That is something you have to contemplate and apply in your life when it happens, or before it happens, or after it has happened. It doesn't matter. You can do it after it has happened. Why? Because if you don't do it, you will feel anger to that person. You will never be able to forgive. And you will fight. You will continue to fight with people like that. That means your heart is on fire. And it will stay on fire. But if you can contemplate on this, your fire will go away, little by little. You will be able to make friends with the world. Friends even with the people that you don't like. Don't you have people that you don't like? At least sometimes. Maybe it might just be someone at work. Someone you don't even see every day. But still, we have to deal with it. I remember a person, not me, someone else, in Germany, and this person is also working in an office, and that person had to work with another colleague, both of them in the same room. Both of them had to share one office. There were 2 computers and 1 room. My friend was a person, he likes to be very tidy, very clean, very calm. So that person even has a Buddha statue, or not a Buddha statue, but a picture of the Buddha in his part of the room, where it says, calmness. In calmness lies the biggest power, strength. Something like that. And the other person, however, was a very hectic person. Likes to run around, talk a lot, call a lot of people, do things very quickly, do so many things, and nothing of it properly. And if you compare the desks, one desk is very tidy, very clean, very set in place. Everything is at its proper place, right? My friend's desk. And the other desk, however, files are laying all over the place. Half of them are open, half of them are closed. Papers is loosely lying around everywhere. So, my friend could not work with this person. Every time that my friend had to go to this office, would he would get a shock, would get annoyed, even to hear the sounds of these hectic movements of the other person would stress this person so much. So it came to a point when the employer had to build a wall to split these two offices into two, because none of them were prepared to change, and the only solution people saw was to separate into two, so that everyone can have his own space. So it says a lot about our mind. It's so funny, because our mind likes to do this a lot, separating from others, being individual, being unique. So I want to have my own space in which I can do what I want, and I'm not prepared to accept other ways. This is my way, this is how it should be, and if others don't want to do that, then I have to get away from them, and I have to remove them from my world, right? So my friend had to, because my friend could not accept people being hectic. When you're at work, can you control the way that people have their desk? Some people are not tidy, or when you're at home, maybe your children, maybe your husband, maybe sometimes clothes are lying around all over the place. Could happen. Now then the question is, how much can you, I'm not saying you should just say, okay, it doesn't matter, let him do whatever he wants, he or she. Could be he, could be she, just to be sure. Conventionally, of course, there's merit and there's something useful in keeping a tidy place. And it is our duty to do that. And even if you have a husband or children, you should point that out, or a wife, or people that you live with. You should point out when you finish eating, you should wash your dishes. You should do that. You should keep your room tidy, but that is your duty. If you suffer, that's not because of that. If you suffer within you because people are not tidy, or your colleagues have a very untidy desk, then there's something else going on. Then there's something within you resisting nature, right? So, let's say at home, your son's room is very untidy, and you are the father or the mother. Now you have a duty. That duty is to educate the child and explain him, give him the right views why keeping a tidy room is important. You should do that. You must explain to your child why it is important, why it is beneficial to keep a tidy room. It is really important to explain why it is beneficial. Not just saying, keep your room tidy, right? Keep your room tidy. Clean your room, because now you're just commanding. But the thing is, your child has to understand why it's important. Because our mind, because actually there's no child there, this is a mind, and the mind always operates based on views. A view is always about why something is good or bad, we can say. So if you explain someone why it is important to have a tidy room, then that's a view, and when that view is there in that mind, it will happen. You don't have to force. But if the benefits are not clear, you can shout, you can force, and you can scream all you like and say, clean your room, but it won't do that happily. Maybe it will do that for you, or because it is afraid of punishment, but it will not do that happily. But if you can explain why it's important, then it will happen. That's how a mind works. It needs views, so you need to give the view. That is your duty, okay? But then there's something else. Apart from your duty as a mother or a father, there's something we call an identity, or what we call wanting. That means it's an attachment. The attachment that I want everyone or my child to have a tidy room. This is what I want so that I can be happy. So this wanting is something that you impose on nature, because your son is nature just as much as everything else. You impose that on nature and you expect that to happen. That is what you want. That is your way. My way is my son should have this kind of a room. Now nature happens and it doesn't happen the way you want, and then what happens? You will be vexed, you will be sad, you will be angry, you will suffer. That suffering, by the way, is not your son's fault, not your child's fault. That is all your own fault. Fault, I don't want to say fault as in shame on you, and I want to say it is because you are acting against nature. Now that is what you get. That's the result. As much as you don't want others to be untidy when it happens, that much you will suffer when it happens. But you need to distinguish that from your duty. Right? Duty is something you should always do. You should always fulfill your duty towards your son, your children, or your parents especially. But all these things are important. When we are talking about the Dhamma here, and I don't want you to think that you can neglect these things, or it's about detaching from my mother means I no longer call her. That is totally wrong. Even in our monastery, even we as monks, we have to call our parents in regular times, because that's our duty. That's what we should do as good human beings, and it will help you to practice the Dhamma also. So you need to distinguish these two. Duty is something that's so important, but wanting is what causes our vexation, and that's always something that happens within us. The vexation is never someone else's fault. Vexation, suffering, anger, disappointment, things like that, always come from within us. When we are not prepared to accept nature the way it happens, because we have a way, we have a fixed way that we want nature to happen. This is how people should talk to me. This is how people should keep their desk. This is how my son should be. For some parents, if the son is not good in school, isn't that a big problem for them? Because we feel that the son is an extension of my own identity. That means if my son is not successful, it says something about me. So if other people ask me, how is your family doing? Now you feel like if you would tell that, then they would look down upon you. In society, you will not be valued for that. if your son is an alcoholic, let's say. So in society, people will not value for that. People will say, maybe people will blame you and will say, you did a bad job. It's because of you. You didn't raise your child really in the right way. I mean, people have all sorts of opinions because our mind likes to judge. So whether or not it is true, people will have all sorts of reasons and opinions about the mistakes that you have done. And they can be right and they can be wrong. So that will always be the case. That will never change. But we have to be wise and we have to be intelligent, and we have to step out of the society's conventional world. We have to understand it and we have to live by it. So please follow the conventions of society. Don't go to the street without clothes, as an example, because this is a convention. We wear clothes, that's also a convention. People think that in our body there are parts which are beautiful and which are ugly. So the ugly parts should be hidden, and then there are also beautiful parts. But actually there's nothing like that. These are all conventions. We talked a bit about beauty last week. People believe that some parts of this body are more beautiful than others. But beauty does not exist in this body. None of these are just cells. Nothing here is beautiful. It's just the way it is. But people have different ideas. People in society, people have views and they feel, for example, when I was traveling around the world, I was traveling through Iran. It's a country in the Middle East in 2018. And in Iran, if you are a woman and you're going on the streets, you're not supposed to show your hair. I mean, as in many countries, Muslim countries. And I traveled through that country for 6 weeks by bicycle. So I got to spend a lot of time on the streets, meeting people. So, in there, for 6 weeks, I didn't see how to explain. Since I was on the streets only, all the women I see, they were always had their hairs covered. So for 6 weeks, I didn't see even one woman with hair, because it was always covered. So that was a very new experience for me, because it's in Germany, it's always very normal. You don't have to cover your hair, and hair is nothing special, right? Normally, hair is nothing special. I would not go on the street in Germany and spend time looking at women's hair. That's not my favorite activity, right? So, but the thing is this: if you hide something, and if you give a view to the people that this is something special, people start feeling that. It becomes special. And that's because of the way the mind works, right? So, what I experienced when I came to the next country, 6 weeks after that, I came to Turkmenistan. And in that country, people are also Muslim, but they don't cover their hair because Turkmenistan has been part of Soviet Empire. The Russians have taken this country few hundred years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So they are a little bit more liberal there. So although they are Muslim, many Muslims there, but they don't, maybe they are not allowed to, or they don't cover their hair. So the first village I came to, suddenly now I saw a woman with just normal, normal as in, there's no normal, by the way. I can't say this is normal, this is abnormal. There's no such thing in reality, okay? These are only conventions. So when I say normal, I'm actually not correct. This is just another way, another convention. A convention in Europe or here in Sri Lanka or in most countries of the world is, this is how you should dress yourself. These are the parts you should show, and these are not the parts these are the parts you shouldn't show in these places, right? Also when we say, if you go into the temple, don't wear shoes. It is only a convention. The floor doesn't care, right? No, the Buddha statue doesn't care, because that is just stones, right? So, that means the problem is only in our mind. The convention is good, but we need to see where the limits are. So back to the story, I came to Turkmenistan and then I was there on the street and I saw, after 6 weeks, I saw a woman with long hair, normal hair. And I looked at that and I felt so happy. And I thought, oh my God, why does it make me so happy to see that? I've never looked at hair of a woman and enjoyed that so much. What's going on here? So now we can think what has happened, why that happened. Because that tells us a lot about the mind and the things that I explained in the last few weeks. So I will try to explain you how that works. Try to do the contemplation on the end of the day. That is something even as monks we do. That is what the Buddha advised us to do at the end of the day, thinking about the things we have done and trying to correct ourselves. I will keep this duty and wanting, these two aspects on the board, because there is something that should be ingrained within our mind, these two things. And thinking about life in these two ways, I'm using this a lot, these actions because of duty or actions because of wanting. These are very important two aspects of life. So I'll come back to this again and again in the next sermons as well. Did you understand the difference? Yeah. So let's come back to the experience in Turkmenistan. So I saw something. I saw something very normal, right? I saw just hair. Is there a difference between hair of a woman and hair of a man? No, right? If a man grows his hair long and he goes to the barber shop in the same way, I wouldn't be able to tell. So it's the same hair, because it's the same food we eat, and actually hair and food is the same thing, because the food that we eat becomes the hair that we are having, right? So it's the same thing. But why then is there such a big difference? I don't think that if I would have seen a man having the hair like this, maybe not as long. Actually, if I see a man with that hair, I would feel the complete opposite. I would feel maybe revolted by seeing that. But it's the same hair, right? The same hair, but once I feel really happy and once I feel really reject. I'm rejecting that experience. So that's also a very good point to think about. it can't come from the hair, right? Nothing to do with the hair. The hair is just cells, just something very ordinary. Now I will explain you why. So for 6 weeks, I didn't see something. Actually, when we're living in normal society, and if the mind has the view that women is something beautiful or man is something beautiful, that's a view. It's an opinion, just as much as this pen is beautiful, these flowers are beautiful, this movie is beautiful, this song is beautiful. These are views. Actually, is that the reality? Is beauty something that exists in a pen, a flower, a cake, a chocolate, a woman, a man? No. But the view is there in our minds. Unless we are an arahant, the view that pleasure, beauty exists in things like that is there. So that means, before I went on this trip, seeing hair of a woman is something I saw every day. And since this mind feels that this hair belongs to a woman, and since woman is something that is seen as beautiful, actually there is a little bit of happiness seeing that. A little bit. When you see it every day and you believe it is beautiful, you feel a little bit of happiness. But what happens is, if you can't see that for 6 weeks, there's a saying, I think maybe I mentioned it last time, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So now, for 6 weeks, there was absence. Absence of something that normally I would never value too much, because it was not something special. It wasn't hard to see that. It wasn't hard to experience that. And in the society, nobody made it something so special. Yes, even I think in Germany or in most of the countries of the world, people say, yes, it is beautiful, but it's not that important, not that valuable. So the value that people give is not that high, but they give a value to it. Likewise, that is the feeling that I have experienced. But if people feel it as very special and as really valuable, and in this case what happened was the mind believes that it is very valuable, or that it is valuable, and it can't have that. So what happens? The vexation level increases. Do you understand what I mean when I say the vexation level increases? The pressure in the mind. So 6 weeks long, the pressure was rising, unbeknown to me. That's not always something you can feel directly. It can happen very slowly. So the pressure level increased. And then, in that moment when I entered the first village of Turkmenistan, what the mind was looking for, now it has found, right? The mind was looking for something. The mind was looking for something which it believes is beautiful. Now it has found what it believes is beautiful after 6 weeks. And that's when it comes to rest. And when it comes to rest, all this vexation reduces. So that's why what I experienced in this moment was this reduction of pain. This is reduction of vexation, reduction of pain. How much of that came from the hair? Nothing. Because pleasure or happiness does not come from the outside world. No matter what it is, no matter what you look at, what can you look at and enjoy? What can you look at that has enjoyment? You can't find something. That is something we need to understand clearly. Because even though that is the reality, our mind doesn't like to accept that. Our mind has a different view. Our mind experiences something. I mean, we don't want to lie. Don't we all experience pleasure? When you look at something, aren't there things when you look at them, you feel happy? There is. But you need to understand how that happens. How it happens that when you look at something, there are things, when you see something, sometimes there is a feeling of happiness. Now you need to understand how that happened. Because otherwise you will misinterpret. Imagine, in this situation, seeing that hair, I feel, oh, this makes me so happy. So I think I should try to see this hair every day. That means maybe I should marry this person. So that whenever I can see that, whenever I can experience that, every day I can be happy like that. Because if I were to think that this happiness is something that the hair gave me, then I could say that, well, every day that I can see that hair, this is the happiness I will experience, right? But would it happen? No, it doesn't happen. Because it has nothing directly to do with the hair. It's just the mind was looking for hair, we can say, it was looking for hair, and all the time that it was looking, it had to run this engine. Looking for something is an engine. If when the mind has to look for something, when the mind wants something, it's like starting a super engine. That is something you have to understand, and you have to see that in your lives. I will give you an example. Do you know what happened to me last week? Now you want to know, right? So what happens with you right now? Aren't you looking for something? You're looking for an answer. Now you're curious. So, right now your mind is looking for something. Nothing happened last week, by the way. Now you have the answer. Now you have relieved your vexation. So what I did was, I asked you, do you know what happened? In that very moment, your mind started to become curious. So what happened? You wanted to know. You wanted to have the piece of information that I was holding in my hand, but I was not willing to give you. So what feeling started in your mind? Now, by the way, this is not something where we have to judge anything, right? So don't feel proud about anything or don't feel ashamed about anything. We are just here to study that. Just ask yourself what happened when I listen to this question. Intuitively, this wanting to know started. Then, what was the feeling that started with it at the same time? When we want to know something, what happened? Isn't it a kind of a pressure? I mean, think about it. In many situations, imagine you are a teacher at school and a kid comes running to you and says, there was a fight, 2 of our students are fighting in a class. No, let's say the kid comes home and tells to the parents, today there was a fight in class, 2 of my friends were fighting. So immediately what the mind wants to know is, who was it? So then, who did it? Now, what if the child says, I will not tell you? What will happen to your mind? Tell me, who did it? Tell me. I want to know. So how do you feel when we want to know that? Please tell me. Why are you so mean to me? You should tell me. So, is there no suffering there? Is that not suffering? That's vexation. And the more you want to know, the more you suffer. And the moment you get to know, then what happens? That suffering goes away. So what was the only thing that happened is you started to suffer and then the suffering stopped. Hurrah, great. How useful was that? What did you gain from that? Do you want to know what happened 2 weeks ago? It's just like somebody's beating you and then you have a chance to get a massage, or better to say, when that pain stops and your body starts healing again, the pain vanishes and goes back to normal. It's just like you have a rash. Imagine you get a rash on your hand. So did you gain anything? No, you just have a rash now. So what feelings will you have now? What will you feel now on your hand? It's very itchy, right? So now, but hey, what happens if it's really, really itchy? What happens when you scratch? Feels good. Feels good. Then, if I were to ask you, do you want to keep the wound so that you can keep scratching it? Or do you, if I give you a cream and you apply that, then after a few days you can become free of that rash? What would you choose? Do you want to keep the rash? Does it bring you anything? Will it make you happy someday? If you scratch it long enough, and not just long enough, but many times, after scratching for 10 times, 20 times, will something come out of this? No. It is something you have to do because it's itching you, right? You have to do that. If you have a rash, now you have to scratch. Or you have to suffer. Either these two things. But if you want to be happy, what's the solution? Happiness means actually this. Happiness means having a hand without a rash. I mean, I'm talking about real happiness. Real happiness means not having a rash. When you have a rash, you can experience two things: itchiness and scratching, and when you scratch, you feel a moment of relief, release of vexation. That's all. Can you gain something from scratching? No, because it is just a relief. It's not something that is produced, this happiness that you feel when you scratch. It's not something that you have produced and that you have gained. So, what good is a rash? It's giving you just free pain. Now you have to deal with that. But it is not there's no such thing called happiness in there. If you say that so now you understand with the body, with the rash. Now the same happens in our minds. When the mind wants something, what happens in the mind is the same. It's producing a rash. Now there's a itchiness. Now there's a vexation. That's the same word, vexation. Right? So the moment that the mind wants to know something, wants to see something, we can use all of these six, yeah? Wants to. Can you see that? Is it visible? Otherwise I'll move. So when the mind wants something, this can be it wants to see something. It can be it wants to hear something. It can be it wants to smell something. Taste, touch, or think. We can also say it's all you can all see it in one way. It's just wanting to perceive. Wanting to perceive or wanting to know. When this wanting starts, now that's when the suffering starts. As much as you want, as much as there is wanting, as much as there is vexation. So, let me ask you a question. Becoming blind, or being blind, is what is a more happier life? A life in which you can see, or a life where you are blind? These are two states. I'm presenting you now two states. There are two states. Let's make it a bit more practical. Two states. We have this thing called relationship status, right? In Facebook and other places. Now let's take the most simplest one. Two is, first is I'm single. The other one is I am in a relationship, engaged. Nowadays there are maybe more than 10, I don't know, can't remember, but we'll leave it for that. So these are states. Now if I were to ask you, which one of them is a happier state? What do you think? Don't you have an answer? I mean, when I was 20, let's say when I was 20, I was in this state. Or when I was 17, I was in this state. And everybody kept telling me, you are in this state, that's not good, you should be in that state. That's a state which gives you happiness, right? Isn't that what people say? So what do people believe? Most people believe this state is a happy state. This state is a not so happy state. So that means people feel that states are things which have different amount of happiness. Isn't that something that society people say? Yes. Now we need to question whether that's true or not. So you can either have, that means the idea is happiness is in states. Does it make sense? Or if I were to ask you the question, which is a better life? Life in the USA or life in Brazil? These are two states, right? USA or Brazil, or Sri Lanka or Dubai. I mean, people make advertisement out there. You should go to Australia because change your state. Because right now you're in a state, but that state is not good. The other state, that's a better one. This is a view. This is a belief. Right? So people say life in there is better than life in here. For example, there are many people who say that, for holiday, let's say Germans come to Sri Lanka because they say Sri Lanka gives me happiness. But then there might be some Sri Lankan person who thinks I should go to Germany because Germany gives me happiness. So one idea is happiness is in this state and not in that, and the other person feels happiness is in there but not in there. So it's always about happiness is in states. Same like that. But now let's think about how it really happens. Because happiness is not in state. The reality is happiness is a process. Happiness is a process. Now I'll tell you how it works. Imagine that you are single and you want to be single. But maybe your parents or whoever decides to engage you. What will happen? You want to be single, now you become engaged. What's the feeling that you will experience? Happiness or unhappiness? Unhappiness. Now you want to be engaged and you become engaged. Okay. So you want to be engaged and you become engaged, so what will you feel? Happiness. Now this is a bit dangerous here, because this feeling of happiness and unhappiness is something you experience in the transition. In the transition from one to the other. Okay? When you go from single to engaged, and that is something you don't like, then transitioning, that is something which causes you pain. Similarly, when you transit from single to engaged and you want to be that, then it is the change which gives you a moment of happiness. It's the change. The state, is it the state itself which gave you that happiness? Does this happiness come from the fact that being engaged has happiness? No. It is because you have undergone a transition from something that you didn't like to the thing that you liked. The transition was what you experience as happiness, not something that the state gave you, the engaged thing gave you, right? That's why I'm saying it's a process, because you experience this happiness during the transition. Let's say, once you are in that state of engagement, how much better is that state of being engaged compared to the one of being single? Is it better? Is more happiness in here? If there's some happiness in here, then the person who wants to be single should experience at least some happiness when going there. But does it do that? No. So these are the same. In terms of happiness, they are both equal. Single and engaged are equal in terms of happiness. They are both neutral, actually. But when you have a view about them having something, let's say, if society tells you should be engaged because that state is really good, now your mind has a wanting. Now your mind has a vexation. Now, depending on how high your vexation is, that much happiness you will experience. Imagine, you have been single for 7 years. And your wanting to be engaged is really, really high. What will be the happiness you will experience when it happens? It will be really high. What if you had been looking for the right person to be engaged with only for let's say 2 weeks? Will it be the same? If the wanting is not as strong, or if it's not so important to you to be engaged, if maybe your life doesn't really revolve around having a partner, but more about being successful in your sports, in your job, or in your school, in your career, if that is not so important to you, now if that happens, how much will be the happiness? Just much less, right? So that means the more you want something, the more you suffer, and the more you feel released, or the higher the happiness you feel when, of course, the suffering goes away, because that's the relief of that. So, I had a friend, a very good friend of mine for many years, and when we were both maybe 28 years, he didn't have a partner for a girlfriend or something like that for, let's say, 10 years. 10 years, from when he was 18 to when he was 28. But he had always been looking for one. And sometimes it was just about the right person, but then something happened and it didn't work out, or it turned out not to be the right person, or that person had to go, or changed his mind. So he was so close, but then it didn't happen. So he had to keep looking. So these 10 years were not easy for him in terms of living without something that he liked to have, that he was looking for. Right? So when I met him with 28, now he found somebody. He said, now I found this person, and she's really great. We know we can spend time together, watch the news together, discuss and read books together, and this person is amazing. So being with this person makes me so happy. So now he changed his state from being alone to being with that person. Now my question is, how much better is that second state compared to the first? Is the state better? No. The only thing that happened, and why did he feel so happy? I mean, he felt so happy. For many years I haven't seen him be so relaxed and so smile so much. Why? Do you think if he would have met the same person 7 years ago, the same person, it would have been the same happiness? Then how much happiness is in that being with this person makes you how happy now? If you meet, he is with that person now and he says, it makes me so happy. But would he met the same person 7 years ago, being with that person would make him just a bit happy. So how much happiness is in that state? No, there's nothing. The only thing he experiences is he was running an engine. His mind was an engine. The engine was running for 2 weeks non-stop. Imagine you have a car and you want to travel from, let's say, from Germany, from UK, from Europe, all the way up to Korea, Japan, or the other side of the continent. So how long does it take? Maybe 2 weeks, right? Let's say you are a truck driver. You're driving a truck. You have so much goods in your truck. And you need to travel non-stop from Germany or somewhere in Europe to China, Shanghai, Hong Kong, somewhere there. It takes you 2 weeks. You have to cross all of Russia. And Russia is a huge country. 2 weeks of driving, full on driving. So now the thing is, Russia is cold, and when it's cold, the engine will cool down. But let's imagine that's not the case. The more you have to drive, the more you have to use the engine, it will heat up more and more and more and more and more. So imagine now, after 2 weeks of driving, you turn off the engine. What will you hear? What will you experience? Have you seen when you have a hot engine and you turn off the engine? Maybe you saw a tractor or some kind of a heavy engine. It'll come to rest, and you can hear even sounds. You can hear the sound of the engine, and it's cooling down. But if you drive the truck only for a minute, or 2 minutes, or 10 minutes, will you experience the same? No. So that is what happened with his mind. This is an analogy for the mind. And the same thing happened in the mind. When the mind is looking for something because it believes that the state is something worth achieving, if somebody goes, like, let's say there's a single person and he doesn't want to be engaged, nor does he want to be single. There's nothing that he wants. Does he suffer right now? No. Now we engage him. What happens? What happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. Because he doesn't want anything. So, but once now let's say there's a person and he's single, and somebody comes to this person and says, do you know, being engaged is great, you can be so happy. I am engaged now and I'm so happy. You should also try. Now imagine this mind, this person starts to believe this, starts to accept this. What will happen when it accepts that? When you take a view, when the mind takes a view, the view that engaging is happy, this state is more happy, what happens with this mind? Wanting starts. Now the wanting has started, which means now that this mind believes happiness is there, it will start to look for it, right? It will start looking for, how can I get this? What do I have to do to go there? Similarly if somebody is living in Germany and they say, you should go to Russia and experience, or you should go to this country and experience this, now we will start the engine. Now the engine is running. Now the mind is looking for something. So what happens when it is looking for something? The engine is running. Heat is being produced. Therefore, vexation starts. And the higher the wanting, the higher the more the hotter the engine is. When you come to the place that you want to drive to, in there you will turn off your engine. It depends on where you want to drive to, right? Imagine there's a man who's coming to our monastery and he says, I have a hot engine. The engine of my car is really hot. Can you help me to come out of this? And I will say, do you know, if you go to Colombo can cool down your engine. Can it happen? Can a city cool down your engine? How do you cool down an engine? Well, you turn off the engine. That's how you can do it. But if I were to tell someone, you should drive to Colombo and there you can cool down, there you can find the relief, there you can find relaxation, then that's not true. Because Colombo is just a city, like any other. It's the same. But now if that man accepts what I have told him, what will he do? He will go on his path. He will travel and he will travel and he will, at some day he will come to Colombo, and when he arrives here, what will he do? He will turn off his engine. And then he will feel the relief of that heat. And if he doesn't understand his car, then he will actually start believing me that it was Colombo who gave him that relief, who cooled down his engine. But was it true? No, it's not true. It can't happen. So with all of this, I want to say, this happiness that you experience, this happiness that people talk about, there's nothing like that. Where do you find happiness here? Actually, I'm sorry, I can't really say happiness. All I should really write here is, vexation releases. Okay, let me correct that. When you feel unhappiness, what it actually means is vexation increases. And when you feel happiness, what you feel as happiness is actually nothing else than vexation decreases. Now that's not to say that happiness is what you feel. It only means you suffer less. So we will discuss this again in the next few weeks in different ways, different examples. I gave you a few good examples today to make you understand. Now, this is what will happen when you understand this correctly. When I started to understand this, now I realized that I don't have to go there to be happy. This state is already good enough. I'm not suffering because I am not here. I am suffering because I believe that something is here. This state is good enough. But I always believe that it's because I'm not here that I'm suffering. The moment that the moment that the mind accepts, this is something good, this is something better than this. Once that belief is there, now you suffer. But actually, this is not something, suffering is not inbuilt in anything. This is good enough. This is something you need to realize, because otherwise you will ruin your life. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't go there. I'm not saying you will ruin your life because you will get engaged. No. You can engage, but the thing is, if you engage looking for happiness in this engagement, that will ruin your life. This hope, this wanting, this expectation that your mind will have. Because there's no such thing that you can find. So you need to know that these are both equally well. There's no problem with this. These are both equal and both are fine. So we don't need to change this to find happiness. And we don't need to go from here to there to find happiness. These are just states. They are okay. We suffer not because of the state we are in, we suffer because of wanting. Wanting with the idea that states bring me happiness, right? So you can't have both at the same time. Either you understand states are just states, that's it, or you understand this is a good state, this is a better state than this, so therefore now there's a wanting. So you can't feel that either you feel unhappiness happiness and unhappiness comes of the states, which is this idea, or you feel that what happens is everything is the same, but it is wanting which produces unhappiness. And it is only release of vexation that we feel as happiness. Right? So these two ideas are mutually exclusive. The idea that happiness is in states, now it has two consequences. Some states make me happy, and then there are also states which make me unhappy. So in this false idea, happiness and unhappiness is real, right? Unhappiness, happiness. That is the false idea. The reality is, states are just states. they're all totally fine. All of them are perfect. And one thing causes unhappiness. One thing causes unhappiness that we feel, as well as happiness is just a reduction of unhappiness. So, one thing causes unhappiness or vexation. Happiness does not exist, but what exists is release of vexation, or the reduction of unhappiness. So we'll go through it again, but I just wanted to finish this properly, to make these two ideas clearly against each other. Because in our mind there's a false idea, which is that happiness is something which is in states, or in people, or in events, and there are things there's something called happiness, which is in some things, as well as there's something called unhappiness, which is in others. There's friends, they make me happy. There's enemies or people who annoy me, so therefore they make me unhappy. So that is our false idea. The proper idea is this, that we need to understand and apply this. People are just people, states are just states, they're all equal. Therefore there's nothing wrong with anything, but there's also nothing special to find in someone. No such thing exists. Unhappiness is not something that the world gives us. That is when the wanting starts. So this unhappiness comes because of wanting. And what we feel as happiness is not happiness at all. It is just when vexation or pain or unhappiness reduces. So actually the only thing that's real is unhappiness. And the reduction of that is what feels good, what the mind interprets as happiness. Good. So then we'll leave it at that for today, at this thing. So think about this, and you can apply this to some other examples. Now I gave you this single engaged, but you can take so many other examples. Being alone, being with people. Being at work or being at home, in the morning or in the evening, being on holiday or going to work, which is better? Same. That's why today I don't want to if somebody were to ask me, how about going on holiday for the rest of your life? Then I will say, what's the point of that? Then what? There's no point in changing the place. Because why is a holiday interesting? It's because it's the vexation that has arisen because of the stress at work that releases, nothing more. If you were to be on holiday every day, then that holiday would become a work. Because you're doing the same things essentially. You're waking up in the morning, you have to go down to take breakfast. It's also work. You have to walk, it's work. You have to eat, that's work. You have to order, that's work. And people who were just kind to you on the first day will start to annoy you a little bit, day by day, People didn't start to annoy you from the beginning. The annoyance started to increase. I mean, the first day you marry someone, that person is not annoying. Or even small things don't annoy us. But the same things, when we experience it over and over again, start to annoy us a lot after 10 years. Why? Because our mind always wants to resist this. Whenever it experiences this thing that, my partner is always doing this, he's always, he's leaving the toilet seat up. Now at the first day it was just a little bit of annoyance, but then we don't want this to happen again, so therefore the wanting that it should not happen again, this wanting increases, so next time when it happens, it annoys us more because by that much we don't want it. So when it happens again, it annoys us more, so then we suffer more, then we say, he gave me that suffering, now I should really make sure that it doesn't happen again, so the wanting increases. When the wanting increases, the vexation increases, and when it happens again, we suffer even more. Because that's how the feedback loop in our mind, how it is leading us into misery. So it's because of our wrong thinking that over time, small things, things which annoyed us a little bit, start to annoy us a lot after years. It's because of the way we think wrongly about the things that happen. That's why people who, a person who's 20 years old, 25 years old, when I think people who are 20 years old, they can sleep in a room even if there's noises in the outside world, even if there's a light, even maybe music is playing, that's fine. But as we grow older, what happens to most people is, if there's light in the room, I can no longer sleep. If there's sound somewhere, I can no longer sleep. And therefore, our comfort zone becomes smaller and smaller. That's something that happens because of the wrong way of thinking. We'll talk about these things another day, but you might have experienced things like that. So you can come out of this by starting to think in this new way. And for this you need to understand what really happens here. How your emotions really happen. If you can apply this, you will be able to solve the conflicts in your workplace, in your family, in your life, wherever, very simply. And then you will start experiencing this freedom from within. So, for that, as I told you, homework for next week would be, think about this and try to use it in some examples, as well as when you go to bed, spend a minute to think about what you have done on this day. What were the good things that you have seen? What were the good things you have done? What were the good things you saw others do? Doesn't matter who did it, but what matters is the goodness that you saw. And rejoice in that. Think about what were the things you maybe can improve, the mistakes you have done, where you have acted with desire or aversion and delusion, and where you feel that your habits are not, they can improve, let's say. And ask yourself, are you not going to bed with a hope? And wouldn't it be good to reach a state where you can go to bed without a hope? Where you are satisfied actually. So we can go there together. I can't go for you. You have to go yourself, but we can support each other. We all together can support each other. This is not just me here, because there's a whole monastery behind me. There are my teachers, the monks with whom I practice this. So the devotees who support us, the many people who come and support us so gratefully, as well as in here, all that you come, and you each other can support each other because when you're going on this path, you will become very different from the people on the streets, I would say, in the way that you think, the way that you treat others, the kindness that you have, and the loving kindness, the compassion, in all these things, you will start thinking differently. That is good. And you can learn from each other, and the people who spend time to make these sermons possible, they are also part of this monastery in another way. So it is always a community which makes these things work. But individually, we all have to do something, which is the contemplation and application. Nobody can think on your behalf what you have done today and think about how you can improve. You can say that you do it, but whether you do it or not, I can't check. And if you don't do it, then you will not get the results. So my teacher always says, actions is for those who do. Not actions. Results are for those who do. Results, right? So if you really want results, and here I'm talking about real results, not just some superficial feeling good kind of things, because you can find a lot of these things on the streets. Go and have a meal, then you will feel good. These things are easy but not effective. This year is actually for free, doesn't cost you any money, but it takes some time and commitment, and nobody can do it for you. But this is priceless, because the Buddha's teachings, the value and the gain that you can get, you can't compare that with anything you can gain by money, by material things. You can't compare. It's infinitely more valuable. So, keep doing what you can do, and you should see the results. But you need to do what you can. What you can today, because then tomorrow you can do more. Okay, so we'll stop for today, and we'll share our merits. Let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, by inviting the Swaminatha to deliver the sermon, by driving the Swaminatha, washing the feet, laying the pavada, serving Gilampasa, and offering flowers, listening to the sermons, and everything else. First and foremost, let us transfer these merits that we have acquired to all the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasikas and upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and have passed it down to the generations of the noble lineage in a form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand, and comprehend the Dhamma. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all of the chapters, who have dedicated their lives towards the betterment of all sentient beings and have committed themselves towards the noble path. Let us not forget that among them are the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let's also transfer these merits to Guru Swaminatha, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, as well as the Anagarika and Anagarika attached to the monastery. Let's also transfer these merits and express our gratitude to all those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these sermons, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. If any of them have been born on the woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in a blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our devotees and to everyone who is engaged in making these events possible, the chairman of the Royal Institute, as well as the administrative staff and everyone involved, and also everyone who is involved in supplying the Mahasangha with the 4 requisites, with shelter, robes, alms and medicines, as well as extending their know-how and continuing to extend their well-wishes. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, nephews and nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, and our teachers, and all those who have helped us and supported us and assisted us. And may through the power of these merits, May they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sampadasasana. Let's also transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May, through the power of these merits, they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's also transfer these merits to our ancestors, all those who have predeceased us, all those who have been family and friends to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. Let's also transfer these merits to all members of the armed forces as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. Let's also transfer these merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides and pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been family and friends to us in this infinite long journey in samsara. May, through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve that may, through the power and blessings of all the merits that we have acquired today, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants in this blessed land. And finally, let us all resolve that may, through the power of these merits, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants and arahant-meninohanses. Finally, let us all resolve that may, through the power of all the merits we have acquired, you and I and everyone who has helped to make this program a success, become an arahant-meninohanse, an arahant-meninohanse in this very life itself, and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now the Mahasangha will transfer their blessings. Raga ginin midetva, dvesha ginin midetva, moha ginin midetva, Nibbana parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva. Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva. Nibbana parama sukhayin sukhita taravetva. Raga gini niveva, dvesha gini niveva, moha gini niveva, nivan sapalabeva, nivan sapalabeva, nivan sapalabeva. Tunuruan ge suvisi ananta mahagunabili siyalu loka siyalu satya nibbana parama sukhi sukhitara. Sadhu, sadhu.